The turkey sat on the dining room table, cold and untouched. I'd basted it 3 times, just like Ellen used to do. The potatoes were perfect, crispy on the outside, fluffy inside. The cranberry sauce still had steam rising from it at 6 o'clock. By 7, the steam was gone. By 8, I turned off the overhead light and sat in the kitchen with just the glow from the microwave clock. My phone buzzed, then again, then 3 more times in rapid succession. I didn't need to look to know what it was. The family chat, the one Michael created 2 years ago, right after Ellen's funeral, claiming it would keep us connected. What it actually did was give them a private arena to coordinate against me. I picked up the phone. Michael. Is Dad seriously still expecting us? Jennifer. I told him last week we had plans. Kyle. Annoying old man. Let him eat alone? Jennifer. Kyle. That's harsh. Kyle. Is it though? He does this every year. Guilt trip central. Michael. He'll survive. We'll do lunch next week or something. Jennifer. Yeah, next week works better anyway. 3 laughing emojis. A thumbs up, a gif of some cartoon character rolling its eyes. I set the phone down face up on the kitchen counter. The screen went dark after 30 seconds. I watched my reflection appear in the black glass. A 62-year-old man who'd spent 40 years in facilities engineering, who'd designed emergency power systems for 3 hospitals and 2 airports, who'd raised 3 children after their mother got too sick to leave bed. The man in the reflection looked tired. He should have been. I walked back to the dining room and started wrapping the food. The turkey went into the fridge in portions, the potatoes into Tupperware. The green bean casserole no one would have eaten anyway got scraped into the trash. Every action deliberate, every motion economical. The house was too quiet. It had been too quiet for 3 years since Ellen died and the kids stopped pretending they needed to visit. This place used to be loud. Toys everywhere. Teenage arguments about borrowed clothes and car keys. Ellen's laugh coming from the kitchen while she burned something, again, while trying a new recipe. Now it was just me and 1,700 square feet of silence. I finished with the food and poured myself a bourbon. Not expensive bourbon. I'd never developed a taste for that kind of pretension. Just Jim Beam. 2 fingers, neat. I took it to Ellen's chair by the window and sat down with my phone. The family chat had moved on. They were talking about Jennifer's new deck now. Apparently the contractor was charging too much. Michael thought she should negotiate. Kyle sent a link to some article about home improvement scams. No one mentioned dinner. No one mentioned me? I scrolled up through the chat history. 3 months of messages. Birthday wishes for Kyle's wife. Rachel? Rebecca? I couldn't remember. Photos of Michael's son at soccer. Jennifer complaining about her homeowners association. Occasionally someone would tag me with a question. Dad, what was Mom's stuffing recipe? Or, Dad, do you still have that socket set I borrowed? I always answered. They rarely responded. I kept scrolling. 6 months back. A year. The pattern was consistent. They needed something. I provided it. They got busy. I understood. Ellen had always said I was too understanding. Tom, she'd say, you're going to let them walk all over you someday. I'd told her she was wrong. I'd told her family doesn't work like that. Turned out she was right. I closed the chat and opened my email instead. The bourbon was smooth going down, warming my chest. Outside, snow had started falling. Big, fat flakes that stuck to the window. The weather report said we'd get 6 inches overnight. The temperature would drop to 15 degrees. Standard December in Pennsylvania. My inbox was mostly spam, but 3 emails caught my attention. The first was from Michael's credit card company. They'd emailed me by mistake. Some glitch in their system. The email showed his balance. $23,000. That was interesting. Michael made decent money as an operations manager, but $23,000 was a lot of debt. The second email was a property tax notice for Jennifer's house. It was in my name. I'd co-signed when she and Brandon bought it 5 years ago. They'd promised it was temporary, just until Brandon's business got established. The business had folded after 18 months. The mortgage was still in my name. The third email was from Kyle's landlord. I was the guarantor on his apartment lease. The email informed me, politely but firmly, that Kyle was 3 weeks late on rent. I set the phone down and finished the bourbon. Then I poured another. The thing about being a facilities engineer is that you learn to see systems. Not just mechanical systems, electrical, plumbing, HVAC, but human systems too. Organizations are just machines made of people instead of parts. And every machine has weak points, pressure points, places where, if you know what you're doing, you can make the whole thing stop working. I'd spent 40 years learning those pressure points. My children thought I was obsolete, a relic, an annoying old man who didn't understand modern life. They thought the world had moved on without me, that my knowledge was outdated, that my skills were irrelevant. They were wrong. I stood up and walked to the basement door. The stairs creaked under my weight. I'd been meaning to fix that for months, but never got around to it. The basement was unfinished, just concrete and exposed beams and the furnace humming in the corner. I'd set up a workshop down here years ago, back when I still did side jobs for extra cash. The workshop was dusty now, but organized. Every tool in its place, every bin labeled. I kept my files down here too, the important ones, not the junk mail upstairs. 3 filing cabinets against the far wall, fireproof and locked. I opened the first cabinet and pulled out a folder labeled Michael. Inside were copies of every document I'd ever signed for him. The car loan when he was 22, the business loan for that startup that never launched, the personal loan for his wedding, all co-signed, all with my name on them. The second cabinet held Jennifer's folder, the house mortgage, the home equity line of credit she'd taken out last year, the loan for Brandon's failed business, the credit card I'd helped her open when her score was too low. Kyle's folder was thinner, but just as interesting. The apartment lease, the car lease, the student loans I'd consolidated for him, the personal loan for expenses that he'd never explained. I laid all 3 folders on my workbench and started reading. Not skimming, reading. Every word, every clause, every signature line. It took 2 hours. By the time I finished, my second bourbon was gone, and I understood exactly what I was looking at. My children had built their lives on a foundation made of me. Every asset they had, every bit of security they enjoyed, rested on my signature. My credit, my guarantees. They'd taken and taken and taken, always with promises to pay back, to make it right, to do better next time. And I'd let them. Because that's what fathers do, right? You help your kids. You give them a foundation to build on. You sacrifice so they can succeed. But they hadn't just taken. They'd mocked. They'd dismissed. They'd excluded. They'd laughed at me in a group chat while I sat alone with a cold turkey on Christmas. I put the folders back in their cabinets and locked them. Then I went back upstairs and opened my laptop. It was 10:47 p.m. The snow was coming down harder now, already 3 inches on the ground. I logged into my bank account first, then Michael's bank. I still had his login information from when I'd helped him set up automatic payments 2 years ago. Then Jennifer's mortgage servicer, then Kyle's landlord's payment portal. I didn't change anything, not yet. I just looked, I studied, I verified what I already knew from the folders downstairs. At 11:30, I logged into my email and started drafting messages. Not revenge rants, I'm not that kind of person. Just professional cordial notes, notices of intent, requests for information, questions about terms and conditions. I sent 4 emails. Then I made 3 phone calls to automated systems, following prompts, entering account numbers, requesting specific actions that would take effect at midnight. At 11:52, I went back to the family chat. They'd stopped talking an hour ago. The last message was Kyle saying, "Night everyone," with a sleeping emoji. I typed, "Merry Christmas. Hope you all had a wonderful evening." I hit send, then I turned off my phone, went upstairs, and got into bed. The snow kept falling outside. The house creaked and settled around me. I lay there in the dark, listening to the wind, thinking about systems and pressure points and the difference between neglect and coordination. They hadn't forgotten about dinner. They'd chosen to forget. They'd discussed it, decided together, made a plan. That was clear from the chat timestamps. Michael had started the conversation at 4:45 p.m., 15 minutes before dinner was supposed to start. Jennifer had responded within 2 minutes. Kyle within 1. They'd waited until the last possible moment to make sure I knew they weren't coming. That wasn't neglect. That was cruelty. I closed my eyes but didn't sleep. My mind was too active, running through checklists and sequences and contingencies. I'd initiated the first phase tonight. The automated systems would execute at midnight. By morning, certain things would be frozen. Not seized, frozen. Legally and completely frozen. By morning, my children would wake up to discover that the foundation they'd built their lives on wasn't as stable as they'd assumed. By morning, they'd understand what annoying old man really meant. I finally fell asleep around 2 a.m. My last thought before unconsciousness was of Ellen, and whether she'd approve of what I was about to do. Probably not. But she wasn't here to stop me. The snow kept falling. My alarm went off at 6. I'd only slept 4 hours, but my mind was clear and sharp in that way it gets when you're running on purpose instead of rest. I made coffee, the good stuff, not the cheap grocery store brand, and sat at the kitchen table with my laptop while the sky outside slowly turned from black to gray. The emails had worked. All 4 automated responses sat in my inbox, confirming that actions had been initiated, holds placed, access restricted, reviews in progress, standard language but effective. I sipped my coffee and waited. The first text came at 7:14 a.m. Michael, Dad, call me, now. I set my phone down and took another sip. The coffee was perfect. 7:16 a.m. Jennifer, Dad, what did you do? 7:17 a.m. Kyle, this isn't funny. Fix this. 7:18 a.m. Michael, I'm serious. Call me right now. I finished my coffee and poured another cup. Then I opened the family chat. 17 new messages. I scrolled through them slowly. Michael, anyone else getting weird notifications from their bank? Jennifer, yes. I can't access my mortgage account. Kyle, my landlord's portal says payment method invalid. Michael, this has to be a glitch. Jennifer, it's not a glitch. Check the timestamp. Everything locked at midnight. Kyle, why midnight? Jennifer, because Dad did something. He had to. Michael, that's insane. Why would Dad lock our accounts? Jennifer, I don't know, but I got an email from the mortgage company about my cosigner requesting a review. Kyle, I got one too, from my landlord. Michael, me too, from the credit card. Jennifer, call him. Michael, I already texted him. Kyle, so did I. He's not answering. Jennifer, he's not answering because he knows what he did. I smiled and set the phone down. Then I got dressed. Jeans, work boots, a flannel shirt, my old Carhartt jacket. I looked at myself in the bathroom mirror. The man staring back looked 10 years younger than he had last night. Funny how a little purpose can do that. I grabbed my keys and went to the garage. My truck was a 2015 Ford F-150, nothing fancy but reliable. I'd bought it used 6 years ago when Ellen was still alive. She'd complained it was too big for what I needed it for. I'd told her I liked having the space. I climbed in and started the engine. It caught immediately despite the cold. Good truck. My phone started ringing as I backed out of the driveway. Michael, I let it go to voicemail. It rang again immediately. Jennifer, voicemail, then Kyle, voicemail. The snow had stopped overnight, leaving everything covered in a clean white blanket. The roads were clear, though. The plows had been through already. I drove carefully anyway. No need to rush. I had 3 stops to make. The first was Michael's office building in King of Prussia. Big glass tower, lots of corporate logos in the lobby. Michael worked on the 14th floor as an operations manager for some pharmaceutical logistics company. Good salary, terrible spending habits. I parked in the visitor lot and walked inside. The lobby was busy with morning commuters grabbing coffee and heading to elevators. I took my time, stopping at the security desk. I'm here to see Michael Patterson, I said. The guard looked up from his screen. Young guy, maybe 25. You have an appointment? I'm his father. The guard's expression softened. Let me call up. He picked up the phone, spoke quietly for a moment, then hung up. He says he'll be right down. I'll wait here. I sat in one of the lobby chairs and pulled out my phone. 7 missed calls now, 12 text messages. The family chat was up to 31 messages. I didn't read them. Michael appeared at the elevators 3 minutes later. He looked terrible. Hair uncombed, shirt wrinkled, tie crooked. He spotted me and walked over fast. Dad, what the hell? I stood up. Let's talk outside. I'm not going outside. You need to fix whatever you did. Outside, Michael, unless you want to have this conversation in your lobby. His jaw tightened, but he turned and headed for the door. I followed. We stood on the sidewalk in the cold. Michael's breath came out in white puffs. He hadn't grabbed a coat. Explain, he said. Explain what? Don't play stupid. My credit card is frozen. The bank says my cosigner, you, requested a review of the account terms. What terms? You cosigned 5 years ago. There's nothing to review. Actually, there is. Section 14, Clause C. The cosigner retains the right to request a comprehensive audit of account activity if they believe the primary holder has materially misrepresented their financial status. Michael stared at me. What? You told me you made $80,000 a year when I cosigned that card. Your actual salary was $62,000. That's material misrepresentation, so I requested an audit. You can't do that. That was 5 years ago. The statute of limitations is 7 years for financial fraud in Pennsylvania. We're well within it. This isn't fraud, Dad. It's a mistake. Then the audit will clear it up. Should take about 45 days. His face went pale. 45 days? I can't go 45 days without that card. I have bills, expenses, Christmas presents for the kids. You should have thought of that before you laughed at me last night. What? I pulled out my phone and opened the family chat. I held it up so he could see his own message. He'll survive. We'll do lunch next week or something. That's what this is about? A stupid group chat message? No, this is about 17 years of taking my money, my credit, my guarantees, and treating me like I'm too stupid to notice. The group chat was just the confirmation. Dad, listen, I'm not done. The audit starts today. While it's processing, your card is frozen. That means no transactions, no cash advances, no transfers. If you have auto payments set up, they'll bounce. If you have a balance, and I know you do, I saw the email, you'll need to make payments directly to the creditor using another method. I don't have another method. That card is maxed out. I need it to pay other bills. Then you have a problem. He grabbed my arm. Not hard, but definite. Fix. This. I looked down at his hand on my coat sleeve, then back up at his face. Take your hand off me. Not until you promise to fix this. Michael, take your hand off me or I'll file an assault charge and your employer will get a very interesting phone call about your financial situation. He let go like I'd burned him. Good. Now listen carefully. The audit is happening. It's legal, it's within my rights as co-signer, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. You can complain, you can threaten, you can call me every name in the book. It won't change anything. This is insane. You're punishing me over a text message. I'm exercising my legal rights as a co-signer who just discovered material misrepresentation on a credit application. That's all this is. Paperwork. I turned and walked back to my truck. Michael stood on the sidewalk, shaking. From cold or anger, I couldn't tell. Maybe both. I didn't look back. Stop 2 was Jennifer's house in Radnor. Big colonial, 4 bedrooms, professionally landscaped even in winter. I'd helped her buy it 5 years ago when she married Brandon. Brandon worked in sales, or marketing, or something. I'd never quite understood what Brandon actually did, but he seemed to make decent money doing it, until his business venture collapsed. I parked in the driveway and walked to the front door. The doorbell was one of those Ring cameras. I waved at it and waited. Jennifer opened the door 30 seconds later. She was still in her bathrobe, no makeup, hair pulled back. She looked like she'd been crying. "Daddy, please come in." I stepped inside. The house was warm and smelled like expensive coffee. Jennifer led me to the kitchen where Brandon sat at the island with a laptop open in front of him. "Tom," Brandon said, standing up. "Thank God you're here. We need to talk about this mortgage situation." "What situation?" "Don't." Jennifer's voice was sharp. "Don't pretend you don't know. You requested a review of the co-signer agreement. The mortgage company just called. They want proof that Brandon and I can qualify for the loan without you. If we can't, they're going to accelerate the payment schedule." "Accelerate meaning what?" "Meaning we have to pay the full balance in 90 days or they'll foreclose." "That seems extreme." "It's not extreme, it's legal. You're the one who put this in motion." I sat down at the island. "Coffee?" Brandon blinked. "What? Do you have more coffee? It smells good." Jennifer grabbed a mug and filled it without saying anything. She slammed it down in front of me hard enough that coffee slopped over the rim onto the granite counter. I took a sip. Good coffee. "Dad, stop. Just stop." Jennifer sat down across from me. "Why are you doing this?" "I'm not doing anything. I'm requesting information about a loan I co-signed. That's my right." "You're right. You're trying to take our house." "I'm not trying to take anything. I'm verifying that the mortgage is being paid according to the terms we all agreed to." "It is being paid." "Is it?" "Because I got an email yesterday from the mortgage servicer about late payment fees, 3 months in a row." Jennifer's face went red. "We had some cash flow issues. Brandon's business failed 2 years ago. But you kept using the home equity line of credit, $60,000 worth." "How do you know that?" "I'm the co-signer, Jennifer. I get copies of all statements. I just hadn't looked at them until last night." Brandon cleared his throat. "Tom, look, we can work this out. We just need a little time." "Time to do what?" "To get our finances in order, to prove we can handle the mortgage." "Can you?" Silence. "That's what I thought." Jennifer stood up. "You can't do this. This is our home. Your grandchildren live here." "My grandchildren I haven't seen in 6 months? Those grandchildren? That's not fair." "No? When's the last time you invited me over? When's the last time you called just to talk? When's the last time you did anything that didn't involve asking me to sign something or lend you money?" "We're busy, Dad. We have lives." "So do I. But apparently mine doesn't matter." I finished the coffee and stood up. The mortgage company will contact you in 3 to 5 business days with their requirements. I suggest you start gathering financial documents, tax returns, bank statements, proof of income. If you can prove you qualify for the loan on your own, this all goes away. And if we can't, then you'll need to refinance or sell. Jennifer started crying for real now. Daddy, please, don't do this. We'll do better. We'll include you more. We'll make time. This isn't about time, sweetheart. This is about respect and trust and treating people like they matter. We know you matter. Do you? Brandon put his arm around Jennifer. Tom, let's not make decisions based on emotion. Let's be rational about this. I am being rational. Rationality is exactly what I'm being. I'm rationally examining every legal agreement I've entered into with my children and determining whether those agreements are being honored. That's not emotion. That's due diligence. I headed for the door. Jennifer followed me. Dad, wait, please. I stopped in the doorway and turned around. She looked small suddenly, younger than 43, scared. I'll wait, I said. I'll wait for the mortgage company to finish their review. I'll wait to see if you can qualify. But I won't wait for another Christmas dinner invitation that you never intended to honor. I left before she could respond. Stop 3 was Kyle's apartment in Manayunk, 4th floor walk-up in an old converted factory building. I'd helped him get the lease 2 years ago when he couldn't find anyone else to co-sign. Kyle was the youngest, the one who'd called me an annoying old man in the group chat. I climbed the stairs slowly. My knees complained. They always did in cold weather. By the time I reached the 4th floor, I was breathing hard. Kyle's door was open. I could hear voices inside. I knocked on the door frame. It's open. Come in. I stepped inside. Kyle was there with his girlfriend, Amy, Annie, and another guy I didn't recognize. They were all around 30, all dressed in expensive athleisure wear that probably cost more than my entire wardrobe. Kyle saw me, and his expression hardened. Everyone out. The girlfriend and the other guy grabbed their coats and left without saying anything. Kyle closed the door behind them. Sit. I'd rather stand. Sit. Down. I sat on the edge of the couch. Kyle stood over me with his arms crossed, trying to look intimidating. It might have worked if I hadn't changed his diapers. You have 10 seconds to explain what you did, and then you're going to fix it. Or what? Or I'm calling the police. And telling them what? That your father exercised his legal rights as a guarantor on your lease? Good luck with that. Kyle's hands clenched into fists. You're trying to get me evicted. I'm not trying to get you evicted. I'm informing your landlord that I'm reviewing my guarantee. That's different. How is that different? Because I haven't withdrawn my guarantee yet. I've just paused it while I verify that the lease terms are being followed. They are being followed. Are they? You're 3 weeks late on rent. I had an unexpected expense. What expense? Kyle didn't answer. That's what I thought. The lease requires the primary tenant to maintain consistent on-time payments. You haven't. That means you're in breach, which means I, as the guarantor, have the right to reassess my guarantee. This is bullshit. You're just mad about the text. The text where you called me an annoying old man? That text? It was a joke. Was it? Because Michael and Jennifer thought it was pretty funny too. Lots of laugh emojis. Very amusing. Jesus Christ, Dad. It was just a group chat. Get over it. I stood up. Kyle backed up a step. Let me tell you something, Kyle. For the last 10 years, I've co-signed your student loans. I've guaranteed your apartment. I've loaned you money for your car, your motorcycle, that trip to Europe, and at least 6 other things you swore you'd pay me back for. I have never asked for anything in return except basic respect. And last night, I invited you to Christmas dinner, and you laughed at me. It was one dinner. It was the principle. I raised you. I fed you. I put you through college. I bailed you out when you crashed your car. I loaned you money when you lost your job. And when I asked for one evening of your time, you mocked me in a group chat and told me to eat alone. So this is revenge. No, this is consequence. There's a difference. You're going to make me homeless over a text message. I'm going to make you responsible for your own life, something I should have done years ago. I walked to the door. Kyle followed me. Dad, wait, I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry about the text. I'll apologize in the group chat. I'll come to dinner next time. Just fix this. No. No? The review is happening. If you can prove you can afford this apartment without my guarantee, fine. The landlord will let you stay. If you can't, you'll need to find something cheaper. There's nothing cheaper in this area. Then you'll need to move to a different area. This is insane. Mom would never let you do this. I stopped with my hand on the doorknob. Don't. Don't what? Don't use your mother to manipulate me. She doesn't get a vote anymore. She'd be ashamed of you. I turned around. Kyle was crying now. Angry tears, the kind he used to cry when he was a teenager and didn't get his way. Maybe, but at least she'd know I tried. At least she'd know I didn't just roll over and let you three walk all over me for the rest of my life. I left before he could say anything else. 4 a.m. came too early. I lay in bed for a moment, listening to the quiet house, then forced myself up. No coffee this morning. I needed to be sharp, and coffee would make me jittery. I dressed in dark clothes, not black, too obvious. Dark blue jeans, navy work shirt, my old Carhartt jacket, the kind of outfit that looked like a maintenance worker or early morning contractor, invisible in plain sight. The keys were in my jacket pocket. I checked them twice before leaving, making sure I had the right ones. Michael's building, Jennifer's house, Kyle's apartment. 3 keys, 3 targets. I started the truck and let it warm up for 2 minutes while I reviewed my timeline. Michael's office first. I needed to hit it before 6 a.m. when the early shift security guard made his rounds. Jennifer's house second, around 7 a.m. when Brandon would be in the shower and Jennifer would be making breakfast. Kyle's apartment last, around 8 a.m. when he'd be getting ready for work. Tight schedule. No room for delays. I drove to King of Prussia in the dark. The streets were empty except for snowplows and the occasional police car. I kept exactly at the speed limit. Nothing that would attract attention. Michael's building looked empty when I arrived at 4:47 a.m. I parked in the back lot near the loading dock. The security cameras there had blind spots I remembered from when I'd helped design the system. I walked to the service entrance and used the key. The door opened smoothly. No alarm. The building's alarm system only covered the main entrances, not the service areas. Budget cuts. I took the service stairs down to the basement. The utility room was at the end of a long corridor lined with pipes and electrical conduits. My footsteps echoed on the concrete. I forced myself to walk normally, not rush. Rushing looked suspicious. The utility room door was locked, but my key fit. Inside was the building's HVAC control center, a wall of panels and switches and digital readouts. I'd helped install this system 12 years ago. I knew every component. The 14th floor was controlled by panel C7. I found it quickly. The system was running in normal mode, maintaining a temperature of 71 degrees. I scrolled through the settings menu until I found the override function. This was the trick. I couldn't just shut off the heat. That would trigger immediate alarms and emergency calls, but I could adjust the settings to create a slow failure that would take hours to identify. I changed the target temperature from 71 to 52 degrees. Then I disabled the low temperature alarm. Then I set the system to ignore manual override attempts from the 14th floor thermostats. The changes would take effect gradually. By 8 a.m., the 14th floor would be 65 degrees. By 10 a.m., 58. By noon, barely 50. Cold enough to be miserable. Cold enough to send everyone home, but not cold enough to damage pipes or trigger emergency protocols. I locked the panel and left the way I'd come. Total time in building, 6 minutes. Stop 2 was Jennifer's house in Radnor. I arrived at 7:03 a.m. Lights were on in the kitchen. I could see Jennifer moving around through the window. Brandon's car was in the driveway. I parked down the street and walked back, carrying a toolbox I kept in the truck for exactly this kind of situation. If anyone saw me, I'd look like an electrician or contractor. The garage had a side door that led to the backyard. I'd installed it myself 5 years ago when they'd renovated. My key worked perfectly. Inside the garage was dark and smelled like gasoline and lawn chemicals. Jennifer's car was parked on the left. Brandon's tools hung on pegboards on the right. The electrical panel was on the back wall. I opened it with the second key. Inside were 2 rows of circuit breakers, neatly labeled. I'd insisted on labels when the electrician had installed it. "You'll thank me later," I'd told Jennifer. She hadn't thanked me then. She wouldn't thank me now. I didn't flip the main breaker. That would be too obvious, and they'd fix it immediately. Instead, I flipped 6 specific breakers: kitchen outlets, living room lights, master bedroom, water heater, furnace, and garage door opener. Then I used a small screwdriver to remove the panel door and took it with me. Without the door, they couldn't see which breakers were flipped without a flashlight. They'd need to call an electrician. That would take hours. I left through the side door and walked back to my truck. A neighbor was getting into their car 3 houses down. They waved. I waved back. Total time, 4 minutes. Stop 3 was Kyle's apartment building in Manayunk. I arrived at 7:51 a.m. The building was an old converted factory with a pretentious name, the Metropolitan Lofts. It was neither metropolitan nor lofty, just overpriced apartments with exposed brick and bad parking. I used the maintenance access door on the north side of the building. My key still worked. The hallway inside led to a stairwell that went down to the mechanical room in the basement. The mechanical room was larger than I expected, probably because the building was old and had been retrofitted with modern systems. Water heaters, furnace, electrical panels, and in the back corner, the main water shut-off valves. Each floor had its own valve. I found the fourth floor valve easily. It was labeled in faded marker. I turned it clockwise until it stopped. The water to the entire fourth floor was now shut off. But I wasn't done. I also adjusted the pressure regulator for the fourth floor. When they eventually reopened the main valve, the water pressure would spike, causing toilets to run and faucets to drip. Not enough to cause real damage, just enough to be annoying. I locked the mechanical room and left. Total time, 5 minutes. By 8:15 a.m., I was back home. I made coffee and toast and sat at the kitchen table with my phone. The first text came at 8:47 a.m. Michael, the heat's not working at the office. Then Jennifer at 9:12 a.m. Dad, did you turn off our power? I didn't respond to any of them. The family chat exploded. Michael, it's freezing in here. Building maintenance says it'll take hours to fix. Jennifer, no power anywhere. Brandon called an electrician, but they can't come until this afternoon. Kyle, the building manager says the water valve was manually closed. Someone went into the mechanical room and closed it on purpose. Silence for 30 seconds. Then Jennifer, Dad. Michael, it's him. It has to be. Kyle, how would he even access these buildings? Michael, he's a facilities engineer. He has access to everything. Jennifer, this is illegal. This is vandalism or something. Kyle, it's beyond illegal. It's sabotage. Michael, we need to call the police. Jennifer, and tell them what? That our father, who has legitimate keys and access, adjusted some building systems. They'll laugh at us. Kyle, there has to be something we can do. Michael, I'm calling him. My phone rang. I let it go to voicemail. It rang again immediately. Voicemail, then a third time. I answered. What? I said. You know what? Michael's voice was shaking. You sabotaged my building. I adjusted the HVAC settings. That's not sabotage. Adjusted? It's 50 degrees in here. Then wear a jacket. You can't do this. I can, and I did. I have legitimate access to that building's systems. I used my expertise to optimize energy consumption during low occupancy hours. It's not low occupancy hours. It's 9 in the morning. There are 200 people here. Then maybe building management should invest in a better HVAC system. Dad, while I have you, you should know I also made some adjustments at Jennifer's house and Kyle's apartment building. Nothing permanent, just educational demonstrations. Educational demonstrations? About infrastructure, about systems, about how everything you take for granted requires someone to maintain it. You're insane. No, I'm methodical. There's a difference. I hung up. 20 seconds later, Jennifer called. I answered. Daddy, please tell me you didn't cut our power. I didn't cut your power. I adjusted your circuit breakers. Why? Because I can. Because I installed that panel. Because you used my money to build that house, and now you need to understand that I can undo what I helped create. Where's the panel door? In my truck. Give it back. No. Dad, please. The kids are scared. It's dark and cold, and they don't understand what's happening. Then explain it to them. Tell them Grandpa is teaching Mommy about consequences. This isn't teaching. This is punishing children for their parents' mistakes. The children will be fine. You can reset the breakers with a flashlight. It'll take 5 minutes, but you'll need to call an electrician to properly secure the panel, and that'll cost you about $400 you don't have. I hate you. That's fine. You'll hate me more by the end of the week. I hung up. Kyle called immediately after. I answered. You crossed a line, he said. No anger in his voice, just cold certainty. Which line? You involved our homes, our workplaces. That's not about money anymore. That's personal. It was always personal, Kyle. You just didn't realize it. We're going to stop you. How? I don't know yet, but we'll figure it out. Good luck. I hung up and turned off my phone. Then I went to the basement and started Phase 4. Phase 4 was about documentation. I needed proof that everything I'd done was legal, methodical, and within my rights. I needed to create a paper trail that would protect me if they tried to retaliate. I spent 3 hours writing detailed reports of every action I'd taken. The cosigner reviews, the account freezes, the building adjustments. I included timestamps, legal citations, and references to the original agreements I'd signed with my children. Then I compiled all the financial documents: loan paperwork, cosigner agreements, bank statements, late payment notices. I organized them chronologically and scanned them into PDF files. Then I uploaded everything to a secure cloud storage account with multiple redundant backups. If they tried to sue me, I'd have documentation. If they tried to claim I'd acted maliciously, I'd have evidence of their financial misrepresentation. If they tried to portray me as a vengeful father, I'd have proof of 20 years of supporting them while they took advantage. By 1 p.m., I was done. I went upstairs and made lunch. Leftover spaghetti heated in the microwave. I ate standing at the kitchen counter, staring out at the backyard. The snow was completely melted now, just brown grass and bare trees. Everything dormant, everything waiting. My phone, still turned off, sat on the kitchen table. I stared at it for a long moment, then turned it back on. 163 notifications, texts, calls, voicemails, all from my children. I didn't read any of them. Instead, I opened my email and found the message from Kyle's landlord from 2 days ago, the one about terminating the lease unless I confirmed my guarantee. I hit reply and typed, "I am unable to confirm my guarantee at this time. Please proceed with lease termination as outlined in our agreement. Thank you for your professionalism." I sent it. Then I found the email from Jennifer's mortgage company requesting a phone call. I replied, "After reviewing the account history and current payment status, I am formally requesting a full financial reassessment of the primary borrowers. I am concerned about their ability to maintain the loan without my continued guarantee. Please advise on next steps." Sent. Then I found Michael's credit card company's audit confirmation. I replied, "Thank you for initiating the audit. Please be thorough in your review. I have additional documentation available if needed." Sent 3 emails. 3 irreversible escalations. By the end of next week, Kyle would have an eviction notice. Jennifer would have a foreclosure warning. Michael would have his credit card permanently canceled. The dominoes were falling. My phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. "Mr. Patterson?" A woman's voice, professional, cautious. Speaking. "This is Amanda Chen from Child Protective Services. We received a call about your grandchildren. Someone reported that their living conditions may be unsafe." My stomach dropped. "Who reported that?" "I can't disclose that information, but we're required to follow up on all reports. I'd like to schedule a visit to your daughter's home to conduct a welfare check." "They're fine. This is a false report." "I'm sure it is. But we still need to verify. Can Jennifer Patterson contact me at this number to schedule a convenient time?" "This is harassment." "No, sir. This is our job. Please have your daughter call me within 24 hours or we'll need to make an unscheduled visit." She hung up. I sat down heavily in the kitchen chair. CPS. Someone had called CPS on Jennifer. It took me less than 30 seconds to figure out who. I called Michael. "What?" His voice was rough, like he'd been shouting. "You called CPS on your sister?" "I don't know what you're talking about." "Don't lie to me. You're the only one who would think of that." If someone called CPS, maybe it's because Jennifer's kids actually are in an unsafe environment. No power, no heat. Parents too broke to fix it. Sounds like neglect to me. I learned from the best, remember? Let's see how you feel when Jennifer loses custody of her kids. They won't lose custody. CPS will do a visit, see the kids are fine, and close the case. Maybe, or maybe they'll find other things. Financial instability, parental stress, unsafe home conditions. Who knows what they'll find when they really look? You're using your nieces as weapons. No, you're using them. You cut their power. You made their home unsafe. We're just reporting it. I couldn't speak. The rage was too strong. "How's it feel, Dad? How's it feel to have someone make your life hard?" I hung up and threw my phone across the room. It hit the wall and cracked, but didn't break. I stood there breathing hard, hands shaking, vision blurring with fury. They'd crossed a line. A real line. The grandchildren were supposed to be off limits. That was the unspoken rule. But there were no rules anymore. I picked up my phone. The screen was cracked, but it still worked. I scrolled through my contacts until I found what I was looking for. Martin Webb, building inspector for Montgomery County. Martin and I had worked together on 3 major projects over the years. He owed me favors, several of them. I called. "Tom Patterson, been a while." "Martin, I need to ask you something." "Shoot." If someone hypothetically wanted to report code violations at a commercial property, how would they do that? "What kind of violations?" "HVAC system not up to current standards, fire suppression issues, electrical panel problems, the usual stuff old buildings have." They'd file a complaint with the county. We'd investigate within 30 days. And if violations were found? Building would get a citation. They'd have to fix it within 90 days or face fines. And if the building housed multiple businesses? All businesses would be affected. They might need to temporarily relocate during repairs. Hypothetically. Why are you asking, Tom? Just curious. Tom, whatever you're thinking, make sure it's legal. Always. I hung up and smiled. If they wanted to play dirty, I'd show them what dirty really looked like. I spent the next hour drafting a detailed complaint about Michael's office building. Code violations, safety hazards, outdated systems. All technically true. The building was old and hadn't been properly updated in years. I submitted the complaint online, anonymous, untraceable. Within 30 days, building inspectors would show up. They'd find violations, they'd issue citations. Michael's company would have to relocate temporarily. Michael would look like an idiot for working in a non-compliant building. That was for calling CPS. Next, I called Brandon's former business partner, a guy named Jack Morrison who'd been screwed over when Brandon's company collapsed. Jack had tried to sue but couldn't afford the legal fees. Jack, it's Tom Patterson. Tom, what's up? Remember that thing with Brandon where he skimmed client payments before paying vendors? How could I forget? Cost me $40,000. I have documentation, spreadsheets, bank records, everything you'd need to prove fraud. Silence. You serious? Completely. Interested? Hell yes, but why now? Because it's time Brandon faced consequences. This would ruin him. I know. His wife too, your daughter. I know. More silence. Send me the documents. I'll talk to my lawyer. The call came at 6:23 a.m., not from my children, from the police. Mr. Patterson, this is Officer Daniels with Lower Merion PD. We need to speak with you about an incident at your daughter's residence. My heart stopped. What incident? There was a break-in last night. Nothing stolen, but someone accessed the electrical panel in the garage. We're investigating it as possible vandalism or stalking. Is everyone okay? Everyone's fine. But Mrs. Brandon mentioned you'd been having a dispute. We'd like to ask you some questions. I'll come down to the station. That's not necessary. We can come to you. No, I'll come to you. Give me an hour. I hung up and sat down heavily on the edge of my bed. The police. Jennifer had called the police. I should have expected this. I'd taken the panel door. I'd left evidence. Sloppy. I got dressed carefully. Khakis, button-down shirt, my good jacket. I looked like a retired professional, which was the point. Appearance mattered with police. I drove to the Lower Merion police station in Ardmore and parked in the visitor lot. Inside, the receptionist directed me to a small conference room where 2 officers waited. Officer Daniels was maybe 40, fit, professional. His partner was younger, taking notes. Mr. Patterson, thanks for coming in. Of course. We're investigating a break-in at your daughter Jennifer Brandon's home. Someone accessed the garage and tampered with the electrical panel. The panel door was removed. Do you know anything about this? I removed the door. Both officers looked at each other. You're admitting you broke into your daughter's house? I didn't break in. I used my key. You have a key to their house? I helped them buy it. I installed the electrical panel. I have keys to several areas of the house for maintenance purposes. Daniels leaned forward. Why did you remove the panel door? To make a point? What point? That their financial security is precarious. That everything they have is built on my support. That if I withdraw that support, their lives become difficult. So you vandalized their property to teach them a lesson. I adjusted their electrical system to demonstrate their dependency. I didn't damage anything, I just made it inconvenient. The younger officer spoke up. Sir, that's still criminal mischief. You can't enter someone's property without permission and alter their utilities. Can I? I'm a cosigner on their mortgage. I'm listed on the deed. I helped pay for the renovations. By what legal definition am I trespassing in a property I partially own? Daniels opened a folder. According to Mrs. Brandon, you've been harassing them since Christmas. You've frozen their bank accounts, initiated audits, cut off their utilities, and now broken into their home. She wants to file a restraining order. A restraining order based on what? Exercising my legal rights as a cosigner? Based on a pattern of harassment. Harassment requires malicious intent. I'm simply reassessing my financial obligations after discovering material misrepresentation on loan applications. That's due diligence, not harassment. You cut their power. I adjusted circuit breakers in a panel I installed using keys I legally possess. If that's a crime, arrest me. Silence. Here's what's going to happen, Daniel said. You're going to return that panel door, you're going to stop entering their property, you're going to stop tampering with their utilities. If you don't, we will arrest you. Clear? Crystal. Good. Now get out of here before I change my mind. I stood up. Can I ask you something? What? Did my daughter mention how much money she owes me? Did she mention the 20 years I spent supporting her while she lived beyond her means? Did she mention the Christmas dinner she skipped to laugh at me in a group chat? That's not relevant to this investigation, isn't it? Because from where I'm sitting, I'm a father who got tired of being used. But you're treating me like a criminal. You broke into someone's house and vandalized their property. That makes you a criminal. I entered my daughter's house using my key and adjusted systems I installed. That makes me a co-signer exercising his rights. Semantics. Law is semantics, officer. I left before they could respond. Outside, the morning was cold and bright. I sat in my truck for a moment, letting my hands stop shaking. That had been closer than I'd expected. I needed to be more careful. My phone rang. Michael. The police called you? Jennifer told me. Are you insane? You admitted to breaking in? I admitted to using my key to access a property I partially own. That's not how the law works, Dad. Then explain to me how it works. Because from my perspective, I co-signed Jennifer's mortgage. I'm on the deed. I paid for the renovations. That gives me legal access. It doesn't give you the right to vandalize. I didn't vandalize. I adjusted. You're splitting hairs. That's all law is. Split hairs, and I've been careful to stay on the right side of them. What about Michael's building? What about Kyle's apartment? What about them? You sabotaged them too. I made adjustments to systems I helped design using access I legitimately possess. If that's sabotage, then every maintenance worker in America is a criminal. Michael was quiet for a moment. You're enjoying this. No, I'm resolving it. By destroying us? By removing myself from your lives financially. You wanted independence. You wanted me to stop being involved. Consider it done. That's not what we wanted. Then what did you want? We wanted, I don't know, a relationship that wasn't about money. So did I, but you made it about money. Every conversation, every visit, every text. It was always, can you lend me, or can you co-sign, or can you guarantee? You made this transactional. I'm just finishing the transaction. By putting us on the street? By teaching you to stand on your own. We can't stand on our own. The economy's different, housing's expensive, everything costs more than it used to. I know, I was poor once too, but I figured it out. You will too. Not in time, not before we lose everything. Then you shouldn't have built your lives on borrowed money and my credit. I hung up. The drive home took 20 minutes. When I pulled into my driveway, there was a car parked on the street in front of my house. Brandon's Mercedes. I parked in the garage and walked to the front door. Brandon was sitting on my porch steps. Tom, we need to talk. I already talked to the police. Not about that, about Jennifer. What about her? She's losing it. The CPS visit, the power being cut, the mortgage issues. She's barely sleeping. She's barely eating. She's pregnant and stressed and terrified. Then maybe you should have thought about that before you skimmed from your business and left your vendors unpaid. Brandon stood up. He was taller than me, younger, probably stronger, but I didn't care. That was years ago, and I paid for it. Did you? Because according to my records, Jennifer paid for it, with a home equity loan, using my credit. We had no choice. You always have a choice. You chose to steal from your clients. You chose to hide it. You chose to let Jennifer take the fall financially. I didn't let her do anything. She insisted on helping. Because that's what she does. She helps. She sacrifices. She takes on debt to protect people she loves. And you use that. You all use that. You used her generosity. You used my support. You used everything you could reach and never thought about the cost. So now you're making us pay? Now I'm making you responsible. Brandon stepped closer. You want to know what responsibility looks like? It looks like a pregnant woman having a panic attack because she doesn't know if she'll have a house next month. It looks like kids asking why grandpa is being mean. It looks like a man watching his family fall apart because his father-in-law decided to play God. I'm not playing God. I'm being rational. Rational? You've lost your mind. Ellen would be horrified. I grabbed his shirt before I realized I was moving. Don't you ever say her name. Or what? You'll hit me? Go ahead. Give me a reason to call those cops back. I let go and stepped back. My hands were shaking. Get off my property. Not until you promise to stop this. I can't promise that. Why not? Because it's already in motion. The audits are happening. The reviews are processing. I can't stop them even if I wanted to. But you don't want to. No, I don't. Then you're not the man I thought you were. Good. The man you thought I was weak, exploitable. That man is gone. Brandon shook his head and walked back to his car. He stopped before getting in. You know what the sad part is? You're right about everything. We did use you. We did take advantage. We were wrong. But you're still going to lose. Because even if you destroy us financially, you've already destroyed your family, and you can't get that back. He drove away. I stood on my porch for a long moment, breathing hard. Then I went inside. The house felt suffocating. I needed air. I needed space. I needed to move. I changed into running clothes and went for a run. I hadn't run in months, not since Ellen died. My knees protested immediately. My lungs burned after half a mile. But I kept going. I ran through my neighborhood, past houses full of families having normal lives, past people walking dogs and checking mail and talking to neighbors. Normal people doing normal things. I wasn't normal anymore. I ran until I couldn't breathe, until my legs were shaking, until I had to stop and lean against a tree to keep from collapsing. When I finally made it back home, it was after 10 a.m. I showered and checked my phone. 37 new messages. Most were from the family chat, but one was from a number I didn't recognize. Mr. Patterson, this is Jack Morrison. I spoke with my lawyer about the documents you sent regarding Brandon's business. We're filing a civil suit for fraud and breach of fiduciary duty. Thank you for providing the evidence. This has been a long time coming. I stared at the message for a long moment. Jack was actually doing it. He was suing Brandon. That meant depositions, court appearances, public record. It would destroy what was left of Brandon's reputation. It would cost Jennifer legal fees she couldn't afford. It would drag on for months. I'd done that. I'd set that in motion. I sat down at the kitchen table and put my head in my hands. What was I doing? Brandon was right. I was destroying my family. Not financially, that was just the mechanism. I was destroying the relationships, the trust, the possibility of ever fixing this. And for what? Because they'd laughed at me? Because they'd skipped dinner? Yes. Because it wasn't about dinner. It was about 20 years of being taken for granted. 20 years of being treated like I didn't matter. 20 years of giving and giving and giving and getting nothing back except more requests. My phone rang. Jennifer, I answered. Daddy. Her voice was barely a whisper. Please stop. I can't. Yes, you can. You can call off the audits. You can return the guarantees. You can make this stop. Some of it's too far along. The reviews are in progress. Jack Morrison is suing Brandon. The building inspector is investigating Michael's office. I can't undo those things. Jack is what? He's suing Brandon for fraud, based on documents I provided. Silence. Then, you gave him documents? You helped him sue us? I gave him evidence of fraud. What he does with it is his business. Oh my God. Oh my God. Do you understand what this means? We'll lose the house. Brandon might go to jail. The kids will. The kids... She started crying. Not the manipulative kind. The broken kind. Jennifer, I'm done. I'm done with you. I'm done trying to fix this. You win. You destroyed us. Congratulations. She hung up. I'd won. I'd taught them the lesson they needed. I'd made them responsible for their choices. Though I'd removed my support and forced them to stand alone. I'd won. So why did I feel like I'd lost? I stood up and walked to the basement. Phase 5 had been supposed to be the physical confrontations, the direct encounters, the moment where I made them face me and accept responsibility. But it didn't matter anymore. They were already broken. The system had collapsed. The dominoes had fallen. There was nothing left to confront. I sat at my workbench and looked at my carefully organized files. 20 years of documentation, 20 years of loans and guarantees and co-signed obligations, 20 years of being a father. I picked up the first file, Michael's college loans, and stared at it for a long moment. Then I set it down and picked up Jennifer's mortgage paperwork. Then Kyle's apartment lease. 3 children, 3 lives, 3 failures I'd helped create by being too supportive, too giving, too willing to say yes, or 3 lives I'd destroyed by being too rigid, too unforgiving, too willing to punish. I didn't know anymore. My phone buzzed. A text from Kyle. Building manager says the water valve was opened by maintenance. They found evidence of tampering. They're reviewing security footage. You should know. Then Michael. The building inspector found violations. They're shutting us down for repairs. We have to relocate the entire office. This is going to cost millions. I hope you're happy. Then Jennifer. CPS came. They said the house is safe, but they're concerned about our financial instability. They're opening a case file because of you. 3 texts, 3 consequences. 3 children learning what it meant to depend on systems that could fail. I'd taught them well. I went upstairs and poured myself a bourbon. It was only 11 a.m., but I didn't care. I sat in Ellen's chair and drank it slowly, watching the street outside. A UPS truck drove by. A woman walked her dog. A kid rode past on a bike. Normal life, the kind I used to have, the kind I'd chosen to give up when I decided to stop being used. The bourbon burned going down. I poured another. My phone rang again. Unknown number. Mr. Patterson? This is Detective Walsh with the Montgomery County DA's office. We're investigating allegations of fraud related to a business called Brandon Enterprises. Your name came up as someone who provided evidence. Do you have time to talk? How much time do you need? As much as you can give. This is a significant case. I looked at the bourbon, then at my phone, then at the empty house around me. I have all the time in the world, Detective. Good. Can you come down to our office this afternoon? I'll be there in an hour. I hung up and finished my bourbon. Then I went to the basement and gathered every document I had on Brandon's failed business. Every spreadsheet, every bank statement, every piece of evidence that proved he'd defrauded his clients and vendors. I loaded it all into a box and carried it out to my truck. This was it. This was the final step. Once I gave this evidence to the DA, there was no going back. Brandon would be prosecuted, Jennifer would be caught in the investigation, their assets would be seized, the kids might end up in foster care if Jennifer couldn't prove financial stability. This was the line Melissa had warned me about, the one between teaching a lesson and destroying lives permanently. I sat in my truck with the box beside me, engine running, heat on. I could still turn back. I could call the detective and cancel. I could tell my children I'd gone too far. I could try to fix this, but fixing it meant going back to being the old man who sat alone at Christmas dinner. It meant going back to being used. It meant nothing would change. I put the truck in reverse and backed out of the driveway. I drove to the DA's office in Norristown and parked in the visitor lot. I carried the box inside and checked in at the front desk. Detective Walsh met me in the lobby. She was maybe 50, tired eyes, professional demeanor. Mr. Patterson, thank you for coming. Happy to help. She led me to a conference room and closed the door. I set the box on the table. This is everything I have on Brandon Enterprises. Financial records, client communications, bank statements, everything that proves systemic fraud. She opened the box and started flipping through documents. Her expression didn't change, but I could see her mind working. This is comprehensive. Where did you get all this? My daughter's storage unit. I'm co-signed on the rental agreement, so I have legal access. Does she know you took these? No. That could be a problem. Why? They're business records for a defunct company. There's no expectation of privacy. There might be attorney-client privilege issues. Brandon never hired an attorney. He settled out of court to avoid legal scrutiny. These records were never part of any legal proceeding. She studied me for a moment. You really want to do this? This is your son-in-law, your daughter's husband, the father of your grandchildren. I know who he is. And you're willing to potentially send him to prison? I'm willing to help the justice system do its job. She nodded slowly. All right, this is going to take time to review. Weeks, probably. But based on what I'm seeing, we'll likely open an investigation. That means subpoenas, interviews, bank records, the full process. Good. Mr. Patterson, can I ask you something off the record? Sure. Why now? This business failed 2 years ago. Why are you bringing this to us now? Because I'm tired of watching criminals get away with it just because they're family. She held my gaze for a long moment. All right, we'll be in touch. I left the DA's office at 2:47 p.m. The drive home was quiet. No radio, no thoughts, just the hum of the engine and the road ahead. When I got home, I went straight to the basement and sat at my workbench. It was done, all of it. The audits, the reviews, the evidence, the investigation. I'd dismantled my children's lives piece by piece. Methodically, legally, completely. I'd won. I put my head down on the workbench and closed my eyes. And for the first time in 3 days, I cried.